Hey, welcome to Dente Rigamortis. I'm a review cultist.
I'm Mikey, the used dead view.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
We're here to discuss this internet story, most creepy, most pasta, and be critically silly doing it.
Yeah.
And tonight we're doing The Tale of Robert Elm. So, this story kind of pissed me off.
No way.
But we'll get into that.
Just immediately get into your notes.
Whoa.
You guys know the story, right?
Yeah, my 7 pages of fucking notes. But no, you'll have to wait for that, audience. So you can check out the Tale of Robert Elm on creepypasta.wiki. It's by G1 Pringle.
Generation 1 Pringle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's the best kind of Pringle.
Yep.
It'd be like super old and moldy.
Well,
yeah.
do Pringles mold?
It's food, I would assume so.
Not all food. Depends on the preservatives.
Yeah. And if it's still in the original can, it might still be good.
So essentially, if this writer is a sealed Pringles can that has developed sentience and decided to write creepypasta, then
That would be a fantastic plot in its point in itself.
indeed, and that Pringles can, the Pringles inside may or may not be rotten.
Self-aware.
Oh yeah, they also might be self-aware too. That's true. Could be like a hive situation.
God damn. This is...
Then you piss this creature off, and then the
Guys.
lid opens up, and then all the chips come out and start attacking things.
Remember when I said that our one commenter, the one critique that we've received in months, that was not just people liking it. It was the person they liked the show, but could we stay on topic?
This is on topic. We're talking about Generation 1 Pringleman.
Okay.
He wrote the story. This is so on topic.
All right. Well, let's do the rundown for The Tale of Robert Elm. Like I said, you can read it on creepypasta.wiki, or you can just listen to us. Or both. So, The Tale of Robert Elm is set in Seattle at first. This guy, Robert Elm, has been going to this bar for 12 years and just drinking Irish whiskey. Basically all night till the break of dawn, and then leaves. And he's been doing this every day for 12 years. And the bartender decides now he's going to go and see what the hell his story is. So, bartender goes up to him, starts some small chit chat, and then asks him what his story is, and he just starts laughing because he's been waiting here for 12 years to tell his story, and no one's come up to him. Mm-hmm. So he decides to lay it out sit down, lay it out for the bartender. So back in 1965,
It was 19...
I think it's 62.
in 1962,
Told you.
Robert was engaged to a girl, and they were living together in a house. But they had a bit of a strained relationship because they were he had a really nasty temper and would do things that he all instantly regretted afterward.
He started getting more and more of a temper the longer they were together.
Yeah. To the point where one night when they were, he was basically kicked out of the truck by her and told to walk back to town while he was out in the fields, or out in the forests and farm fields outside of town. And so left there, he just kind of started getting angry at himself and just taking venting his anger out on the cornfield until he found a nice empty patch and just decided to lie down in the dirt and take a nap.
Take a dirt nap.
Yeah. But then he was woken up by a rustling sound, and this giant hooded figure, 7 feet tall, I think, came out of the crops and invited him to go to follow him to a little party with his friends out in the woods. because he seems so distraught and like, oh, you just like come with us.
My friends will cheer you up and we'll drive you home after.
Yeah, come with me, friend. And so they walk. He follows this stranger into the woods beyond the farm fields. Then starts wondering why he is doing this, and decides to ask more questions about this whole like thing. But the man Lombard, I believe his name is, gets in there or is just saying, oh, it's just a bunch of my friends. We do this little party out in the woods, and they get there and there's like tables set up and like torches and like an altar.
Yeah,
and this is already not like this. Yeah, this is fun. This is pretty fun. And he sits down in the one chair that is available. The food is. I think it's just like weird meats and like bread.
He doesn't eat any food.
He doesn't eat any of it though.
He wasn't hungry.
Yeah, because he had eaten earlier. But he tries drinking from like this goblet, and like it's a really weird taste, and like causes him to like hallucinate a little bit, or like
he gets a massive headache like immediately.
Yeah. And the people that are around him don't really talk a whole lot or don't talk coherently. And the one time that they do is like always like, oh, it doesn't hurt the third time on the third glass. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to not drink this. But then after a little while, the party kind of convenes where they all get up from the chairs and go to the altar in a circle. And Lombard tells Robert to go kneel before the altar, just so like the group will accept him. It's all going to be fun, friend.
Just
Don't
a
worry.
formality.
Yeah, it's just a formality. And then he goes to the front of the altar and reveals that he, in fact, has a goat head underneath the cowl that he's been wearing. And then they start doing this ceremony. But one of the cultists, one of the people in the circle, points out that he saw that the guy hadn't drank the purifying material, like stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
So the ceremony has to convene at another time.
And the one guy gets pissed and pulls out a knife.
And Lombard struggles with him and fights him. Gets the knife away from the guy, but the knife goes like handle first into between Robert's like forehead, and knocks him out.
I don't think the knife went flying from the other guy's hand. I think it's like in their struggle of Lombard holding like the guy's hand and like bam.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Robert then wakes up in a very antiquated like 19th century home or like a room, and then Lombard comes in and apologizes for what happened the night before. Don't worry, that man will be Alabaster will be has been removed from the circle of the circle of the black table. And let me lay and then like sits down and like, let me lay this down to you, like our whole shtick. We're actually like a whole community out in the middle of the woods, blah blah blah. I don't actually have a goat's head. It's actually just a mask that's been grafted to my head because it's a part of our traditions. Because we have a special pagan religion that's been around since our town burned down. Since we burned down our own town to deal with a plague that had corrupted it.
And the goat is like the one thing that kept them alive because they were eating the goats and drinking goat milk, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. So they honor it that way. And you, the guy Robert is pretty. Weak or ill or not ill, but like weakened from the whole event or something like that. So
because he just had a concussion and his legs feel really heavy.
Yeah,
he can't really move them.
You can stay here for a while until you get your strength up, and then you can leave. We'll take you home. And so weeks pass, where he's allowed to like check out the place. It's like a large farmhouse with several other properties on this massive, or several other like buildings on this massive property.
I think it's like 4 buildings.
Yeah, 4 buildings, like a farm, a burned out chapel, or is it burned out? No, sorry, a chapel that's never used, and then a concrete bunker.
And a schoolhouse.
Yeah, and a schoolhouse, yes. And yeah, he walks around. Gets curious about a few things there, but I think like at the point he does try to check out the concrete building, or the concrete building definitely catches his fancy because it's
all the stuff that he doesn't know information for catches his fancy.
Yeah.
Because there's the double door in the main house that they say you can't go in there. You need to be
inducted into our little group.
Yeah, and same with that. And like they see in the hall, there's a picture of a goat-headed man.
Yeah.
He's like, "Is that you?" He's like, "Oh no, that's my great grandfather."
Yeah, I wish I'd seen him. Like I got to know him. It reminisced. It's very pastoral, little commune out in the middle of the woods. And is it what state is this in? It does say what
Iowa.
state? Iowa, yeah. This little commune out in Iowa. And so yeah,
And it's not just goat-headed man. Like there's at least 4 or 5 others that are named or at least mentioned.
Yeah, and there are a lot more than that because there's children and other adults doing other things around the place. So yeah, he spends a couple of weeks there until his strength is kind of built up, and so it gets to the point where he's recovered enough. So, but Lombard wants him to stay one more week so they can prepare a sending off ceremony, and then he'll be able to leave. And he's like, all right, well, okay, I guess I'll do that.
You guys have been pretty cool.
Yeah, you guys have been pretty cool. Even though there have been some weirdness about them. They've been friendly to him, but almost like a forced friendliness, or there's been they act funny, really they stare at you while they're being polite to you and stuff like that. What happens in that week? Is it just more or less the same? Him looking up on stuff?
Him, the last week he's there?
Yeah.
Essentially, at that point, he mentions how, again, there's been weirdness about them. Because he's only going to be here for a week, he needs to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
So, one night or morning, I think it was night, I don't remember, it doesn't matter. Lombard comes in and says, very sternly, he says, do not leave the room, we're doing a rehearsal, stay in here. Yeah. But he's being kind of menacing about it.
Yeah, he's
but Robert's like, yeah, okay, fine. And then he leaves, and then Robert immediately takes his shoes off and starts sneaking around.
Yeah, and sneaks up to where the ceremony is taking place.
He's in the attic.
Yeah, he goes into sneaks up onto the top of the roof and then finds a little attic space where he can watch the ceremony. And basically they find Alabaster, the man who had pulled out the knife, hogtied or blindfolded, and dragged to the altar. Yeah, very similar looking altar. And Lombard's there, and basically they sacrifice him to Sekra, this god that they worship, this goddess they worship. And they cut out his liver, and he then Lombard eats the liver, and that's
at least takes a bite out of it.
Yeah, takes a bite out of it in the ceremony, and everybody cheers and stuff like that. And it's oh god, and it's okay, this is a cult. I gotta get out. And he gets out of the
and he hears Lombard say, "Oh, speaking of this, I should go check on our friend."
He's yeah, runs out and then gets back into the room. I guess moments or sometime a little bit before Lombard shows up, and he just just plays it dumb. It's oh, hey, yeah, I heard a little bit of weird noises, but it was all muffled. I couldn't hear anything.
Well, no, he didn't say that. He, essentially, as Lombard came in, he played it off like he just woke up from a nightmare.
Yeah,
that's why he was
that actually really. Yeah, sorry, I didn't catch on to that actually. Yeah, but yeah, that's a smart move. Even though he could see even in the dark, I guess he could see some bloodstains from Lombard.
Yeah, there was some blood on his mask.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming as he walked in, he turned the light on.
Oh, maybe
or something.
Yeah.
So he then basically he decides. What did he decide to do after?
You want me to finish this off?
Yeah, please.
All right, fine.
Sorry, it's been a couple of days since I watched
That's fair.
this, so
that's fair.
I watched this since I read it. So,
so yeah, at that point, he's like, "Okay, I need to get out of here. I need to find out what's going on here and do an escape plan."
Oh.
So he goes to the concrete building outside again to try to find a way in, and he finds a door. A new door with a different lock on it. He goes to open it, and it opens as the guy's coming in. He's like, no, you can't go in there.
Yeah. Do you want me to bring Lombard on you?
And he's like, no, sorry, I was just curious. And then he leaves that. And then he... Then, not much else really
honestly,
happens at that point.
Yeah, honestly, he's just waiting because he knows that he feels that he's going to be killed.
He knows he's going to be killed. He heard them say that.
Yeah.
But in that last week, he sees a few random people try to run away.
Yeah.
And then people just run after them and catch them
and take them away. Yeah.
He's like, okay, I can't just run because they'll just catch me.
And then the final day happens, and he basically slept till 6 that last day. Mm-hmm. And Lombard comes in and is like, "Hey, can you meet me in my chambers? I'd like to before the ceremony starts. I'd like to discuss some things."
It's like behind like a painting. And shit.
Exactly. So he goes down there, but not before he hides like a pencil in his boot, mm-hmm. and then goes in and it's like, "Can you please kneel and
take off everything except for your pants.
Take everything off except for your pants." And then as he goes takes off his shoes, he grabs the pencil and just stabs it into Lombard as he's behind him, mm-hmm. and guts him basically a little bit, and then he drops to the ground, and he goes to run out, but not before Lombard gets back up and starts laughing. It's like, "Oh, you're a smart one. You're a smart one compared to the fools we usually bring in."
I don't think he immediately ran. I think he stabbed him and then just immediately wanted answers.
No, he went to go running, and then he turned because he heard Lombard getting up.
Okay, well, either way,
yeah,
they have a little exchange.
They have a counter revelations thing. It's you fool! You are destined to be sacrificed by us because you are the bloodline of. We've known all along that you are of the bloodline of our the brother of our forefather.
Yeah, essentially the two people that started their whole
that purged the illness or the plague or whatever.
Yeah, was his grandfather
and Lombard's grandfather, Robert's grandfather and Lombard's grandfather, because they were brothers.
I don't know if it was said. I think it just says. Yeah. I think it just says Robert's ancestor. So it might be his grandmother.
Yeah. So one of them was a worshiper of Sekra, this
goddess of death.
Yeah, this goddess of death, and the other one was a god of. The other one was a worshiper of a god of justice and some stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one ancestor fled this whole situation after things got too weird, or before the whole commune thing got started, but not before basically saying that anybody in my bloodline who touches you guys will just totally destroy you guys.
Yeah.
But they've been slowly they found a loophole because they took Robert into this whole thing from the get-go. It's all been planned, and they've been feeding him human meat in his food over the last couple of weeks
because that weakens his powers.
Because that weakens the aura that he gives off because of his bloodline.
Yes.
But little did they know he hadn't eaten it for a couple of days, so the power was still there, and so he grabs onto that mask of Lombard's and just rips it off from the grafting process, and then just
I think it's just stitched on, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think it's grafted on.
It's grafted. That's stitched into his flesh.
I don't know if that's the same. Not to audio not to you during your rundown. Grafting is when you're taking a piece of skin and adding it to your own skin through high-end medical means.
Okay, I guess so. I don't know.
Skin graft.
All right, fair enough. Then yeah, it's just stitched on so that, but still it's still gonna hurt. It's breaking. Fucking hell.
Oh yeah, because I remember it specifically says he pulled hard and the last stitch gave way.
And he just threw it against the wall, revealing this horribly grotesque face. I think he grabs onto Lombard's arm and just it melts underneath his hand from his touch.
Yeah.
And then he basically just books it, runs out, goes to the concrete building, hides there while everybody's searching for him. Hides in a barrel full of human meat and blood.
He hides in a barrel of things.
It's viscera. It's human viscera, as we find out.
Yes.
And so as the guy who's basically the little short guy, the old short guy is basically bringing out another corpse to start cutting up for food.
Yes.
And then when the guards leave after they come inspecting the place, he gets out of the barrel, knocks out the guy or kills him.
With the lid of the barrel.
Yeah, with the lid of the barrel, and then runs through the next door. And
grabs his knife and runs to the door.
Yes, down into down to some tunnels where he sees some guards or some people there.
One guard with a gun.
Yeah, and so shanks him in the back of the head, drops him, grabs his gun. It's I use this later. Grabs that, finds an exit that's like down to like the pond or a river or something like that.
There's a hatch.
Yeah, there's a hatch that goes down to a ladder. Where they find like basically like bikes and backpacks and basically all the junk, all the trash stuff that they don't use from the people they kill. They find and kill. So he like grabs a backpack, finds a good working bicycle, and just bikes through the woods till he gets back to town. Stopping, of course, to munch on some force mix that's in the backpack he had. Then runs into town, bikes into town, covered in blood and stuff like that. Runs to his house. He found out earlier that his wife or his girlfriend to be was kind of in on the plot a little bit.
She was like indoctrinated by them to
do this,
to essentially make him angry, to give him a reason to be there.
So he like just goes inside, ignores her, gets all his stuff. It continues to ignore her, and she's like pleading for him. But then, like in her eyes, he knows that she knows and stuff like that. And he just gets in the car and just drives out of town. Just never comes back. And he's basically been on the run or been on the go for since then.
And they've found him a couple of times, but for the past 15 years, they haven't found him here.
Yes, 12. Yeah,
for the past 12 years.
And so that he just like he's happy he was able to tell that story to somebody, and then the reason why he was drinking Irish whiskey is so that if they ever do catch him and they like cut out his liver, it'll be like they choke on it.
Yeah, essentially, like he's destroying his own body, so they can't use it.
Yeah, and so he goes home that night, gets into his sits down in his favorite couch in his favorite chair. And then out of the shadow, out of the shadowy corner in his room, Lombard is there, and that is the end of the story.
Yep.
That was the tale of Robert Elm. So we should go into grammar inquisition because everyone expects it at this point. He appears at the Spade habitually at 10 p.m. and leaves just before dawn. So this is a nitpick for me. I feel like the bar's name, the Spade, should be in quotes. It doesn't necessarily have to. I just feel it would help differentiate the bar, the name of the bar. Because when I first read it, it's like he appears at the Spade, and it's just like, yeah, I guess that is the name. It's just kind of like
it makes you think for a millisecond that he's arriving at a shovel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just such it's also such a superfluous, like such a normal yet strange name that I wasn't expecting it. But yeah, that one's a super nitpick.
Is it just Spade? That's
the Spade.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah. Then my next one is back left table facing the wall, hunched over with his beverage in total silence, save for the hum of the light and the drumming of the bartender's fingers on the metal cash register. So it's supposed to be save for the hum. Just like with his beverage in total silence, save for the hum of the light and the drumming of the bartender's blah 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 blah.
Now read it all in one breath.
Oh yeah, it's a run-on sentence.
Yeah.
Also,
why do you think you wrote it down?
Also, this story is noir as fuck right off the top of the bat. Just have that in my notes there because it's just me taking note of the style of the story. That wasn't a negative. That one that was actually just me appreciating. I was like, oh, this is really cool. This started off really good with a noir-esque style. It's a shame what happens later. After high school, we bought her uncle's house on 4th Street and slowly learned to live together as a soon-to-be married pair. So you're a couple. I don't know why, but the sentence, specifically the end phrasing, just seemed really weird to me when I read it. Like, nitpicking probably again, but just say that you're a couple.
But they are.
Yeah, but it's like, where we slowly learn to live together as a couple, not as a soon-to-be married pair. It just seems kind of odd, but...
Or soon-to-be married couple.
Yeah, that works too. Just the pair... I guess it again, nitpick, but it's just like the pair didn't... It seemed like it could have been better if it was just couple.
That Tim Hortons cup and that Tim Hortons cup, that's a couple of cups. But it's also a pair of cups.
Yes, but when you're talking about two people who are engaged in a relationship, it's not generally you don't call them a pair. You call them a couple.
They both work, honestly.
I know.
Couple is more commonly used, I guess.
Yes. And I will fully admit, this is a nitpick, but why the fuck else do we have grammar inquisitions?
For grammar-related things.
Yeah, which this is. Alright, so, next thing. For every act of hospitality, he offered their... that's what was wrong with this one. For every act of hospitality, he offered, there was an event or element that would cause a pang of distrust in my mind. So the comma is after hospitality, but it should be after he offered.
Yep.
So, like, for every act of hospitality he offered, there was a... Yeah, because that's like, what? And that's my grammar inquisitions. So, Mikey, what do you got?
Was it for the entire thing?
Yeah.
Alright. Alright, so I have a needs a comma scenario. We walked outside and we explored the grounds. From the outside, the house was massive. So, from the outside, comma, the house was massive.
Yeah.
There's no comma there. And then another one, spot that needs a comment. Yeah, a comma, not a comment.
You're commenting on the fact that it needs a comma.
Yes.
So it does need a comment on the comma.
Mm-hmm. We walked back up to my room, and Lombard instructed me that now that I know where I am, I can move about the property at will, but only during the day. At night, I was confined to my room. So the comma is...
Before bed?
No.
No?
That I know where I am, comma, I can move freely about the property. Like, there's no comma there.
I suppose.
Yeah, it makes it run better. It's because I can. Sort of.
Yeah.
Doesn't really work. And then another one that I have is the use of it in part 3 when he grabs the rifle.
Okay.
Did it make an it story?
No.
Okay.
No it for you. Damn. Anyway, so basically my issue with it is that it's used in a new paragraph and a new sentence, so...
The rifle.
Yeah.
Would you rather it say the rifle blah blah blah, the rifle blah blah blah, the rifle blah blah blah?
Or make it part of the previous paragraph or something so that it's continuous so we know what they're talking about.
Suppose.
Because I have the first, or the last sentence of the paragraph before, and then the issue that I have. So, I let the knife rest in his skull and snatched up the firearm. Here's something I can use, I mumbled to myself as I slung it over my shoulder.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
as you sling
the rifle over the shoulder.
Which, I'm sorry,
that's
you can
fine.
imply... Yeah, you can imply...
Yeah, but that's a new paragraph.
Oh, okay,
sorry, man,
was that the end of a previous paragraph or the start of a new one?
That was the start of a new one, I think is what he's getting at.
So...
Is that entire thing the start of a new one?
No, the first sentence that I gave was the end of the previous paragraph.
Okay, honestly, it just sounds like it should all be together as one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the quick fix.
Yep. So, and I think that is it.
Okay.
For my grammar inquisitions.
And I think that is it for my grammar inquisitions.
You didn't get any? Okay.
Well, I got one. It's just you guys
I
got
know that I
it.
took it. Sorry.
It was the last one you had.
Oh, the comma? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Alright, so on to actual thoughts. Part 1.
You hate it. Part 2, I hated it more. Part 3, I hated it less.
Here's
but I
the,
still
okay, here's
hate
the thing. I'm going to open up with this. I liked the first 2 parts.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's how I'm going to preface my actual thoughts. So, part 1. Why do you care what an old man like me does with his time? Because, the bartender said, with a look of confusion, you have come to my bar at the same time of the night, every night for the past 12 years, and I am just now hearing you speak. I think that's reason enough for me to ask. 12 years? And this is the first time you've gone over to ask him about his situation/story. He comes in every night and does the same thing, orders the same thing for 12 years. And you're just now getting to the point...
He's a customer.
Yeah. Well, still, it is actually in bartenders, not job description, but it is generally customary for bartenders to, have a repertoire with their long-time customers. I would have at least mustered up the nerve to inquire about his situation after the 6th year. But, yeah. And then moving on from that, you want to know why I wasn't talking? Yes, yelled the bartender. It's been a riddle I've been trying to figure out for years. Wow. And then continuing.
Just no comment on that?
Just that was my comment. Just I've been waiting years to ask you what's going on. But I'm continuing. This is all part of the thing. Well, new friend. Honestly, I was waiting for you to ask me that question. And now that we have that elephant out of the room, have a seat across from me. 12 years? That is a commitment to a passive aggressiveness and patience to a joke. And then we can move forward. We can continue on. So let me get this straight. You never said a word to anyone in this bar for 12 years because you were waiting for someone to come to you. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds kind of silly. Okay, I'll stop badgering this topic.
Let me break it down for you. I can sum it down. I can summarize this weirdness with one quote. Got ya! You should have seen the look on your face. I got you so good.
Wait, you mean you wasted the best years of our lives on a joke? Uh-huh. That is awesome. Yeah, that's literally what I thought of this entire thing. Yeah. Anyways, I'll stop badgering it like that point because this is just situational humor. But then, well, sir, what have you been waiting for so long to tell someone? Robert Elm looked at the bartender square in the eye and said, my story, of course. The Tale of Robert Elm. Credits. All right, I'll stop. I'm done. I'm done with this joke. I'll stop badgering it. Betcha. Mushroom. Anyway,
bring it back. No, don't ever.
And now we move on to my cultist corner, which is apparently becoming a thing.
Yeah.
So this is what I got from when I was at my reading, and then taking notes of it from the story. So here we go. Okay, Lombard, who are these friends of yours, and what is this meeting, and where are we going? Just a meeting, friend, held here in the woods with some close acquaintances of mine. You needn't worry about it, Robert. Think of it as more of a party. It will take your mind off of your troubles. So, at this point while I was reading the story, I was just like, this is either a fairy tag-along game, or like the Wild Hunt, but less hunt. And given Robert's seeming compliance, there does seem to be some kind of weird supernatural element at play here, or, again, like he does kind of bring up later, he is kind of in a weird headspace, so he just kind of accepts this. And for those of you that are not sure what I mean by Wild Hunt, it's like a fairy folk thing where basically the fairy king and his servants and stuff like that march through the woods and will take any passerby humans that are caught in its wake, basically, and they either have to join in with the hunt or be the hunted.
Yeah.
Or kind of when you step into a fairy ring, which is where a ring of mushrooms, you can get ensnared into the fairy world kind of thing. It just kind of reminded me of that kind of thing. He's just being brought into the woods by this strange hooded man. And then on the cultist corner side, I feel Lombard might be Nyarlathotep at this point in the story, or at least one of his masks. As he mentions, it's one of his monikers.
Yeah.
Leading Robert to the cult meeting. I feel something supernatural must be afoot because it's odd how chill Robert is in the situation. Or it's just a dream and he's still sleeping in that field about to be hit by a thresher machine as it's going through the crops. And then we have on Lombard's long, broad shoulders sat the head of a goat, jet black save for the stripe of white between its pale green eyes and spiraling ivory-colored horns that curled backwards behind his ears. Okay, so it's not really Gnarly, it's Mama Shub. And for those of you who don't know what I'm saying, Shub Niggurath, the black goat in the woods with 1,000 young. Or at least maybe one of her satyr followers. More to quote Lovecraft stuff. Again, at this part, this was before we got all the exposition later on in the story. Yeah. This is just now what I was like gleaning on the story. And then the next quote is, what about everything else? The mumbo jumbo you guys were talking about, the goat head, the black circle. I want answers now. You have a right to be frightened. All will be explained to you. Let me start from the beginning. You know, I can't help but draw similarities between this and The Festival by H.P. Lovecraft. Not in a copycat way, mind you. Just more like kind of like the basic plot and concept of this is similar. Like, guy is invited to go to a small town on the coast for some kind of like family tradition thing. He meets some really strange people. They invite him down to like some catacombs where it's then revealed that some of them are less than human, and they have to go on this like strange macabre festival of like lights, of like strange like eerie lights, while they fly on the backs of like bug creatures. It sounds a lot weirder than, but basically the basic premise is that the guys like have brought into this weird like party or weird circumstances.
Yeah.
But whereas that story, whereas this story and the festival differ, is that the festival ends in an anticlimax, leaving the reader to wonder what the hell happened to the previous night, from the previous night, and what was going on all along. We are left creeped out and confused, just like the narrator character, or just like the main character from that story, as he sits in a hospital bed recovering from his harrowing and accidental escape, full of questions that may never get answered. And for a horror that feeds off of fear of the unknown, that's great. This story has the Worm Man from the festival, or Lombard, for this one, show up in the hospital and lay down the origin of the festival to the protagonist. I don't think it's a bad thing, but it makes the story more of a weird fiction feel rather than a straight horror feel. Because that's the difference between like horror and weird fiction, is that horror would not give you the answers of what was going on that night. Mm-hmm. A weird fiction would have a character come in like from that festival and explain why like those weird circumstances happened.
They're also on completely different levels. I don't mean quality-wise or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, this is mundane to a point.
It is mundane to a point, yes.
Whereas the other one is very fantastical. So if something is mundane, it's possible to have the answers.
True. I don't know. It's like this is also before I read like the more mundane explanations to think. Well, mundane because like there's straight up blood sacrifice too, and like the guy ends up getting superpowers by the end of the story.
The superpowers is the only thing that's not mundane.
Yeah. But yeah, so I agree. Like they are on a slightly different tier because like one of them does have more supernatural elements to it, but I think it's still it just couldn't help but bring those like that kind of like connection there, just in terms of like. That story ended with like basically the character escaping and not knowing any of the answers. This one like lays down the answers, and we get a lot of explanation for like what's going on. Mm-hmm. And it's not a bad thing. It's just,
but again, there are explanations for acts that people have done.
Yeah,
where it's comparing it to explanations of something that shouldn't be explained, something supernatural.
Yeah.
If this was entirely supernatural, then yes, it shouldn't have been explained, but it's the explanation is so mundane.
I suppose, yeah, there's more of a human element at hand in this one, whereas the other one, it may not have been human. Like the motives of whatever was like going on in the festival may not have been human. I'll admit that. Mm-hmm. Again, this was also like my notes from like before I finished the story.
Yes, of course.
Where am I? So really, I kind of coined this story for being more of like a strange horror because it's more weird fiction, like blend, like again, like more fantasy or not fantasy, but like. It's more strange occurrences happening than horror in some cases, or like it blends the whimsy of like that would be a fantasy story with the horror story. But moving on, the goat headdress symbolizes the single species of beast that provided us with food and drink during the dark times. And for your information, it's permanently adhered to my head. And at this point, I was like, sure. Yeah, sure, it's just a mask. Okay, admittedly, at the end, we did discover it was a mask, but how cool and creepy would it have been if it had been, in fact, been, like, his actual head and he was just, like, some weird goat-man hybrid? Like, we could have gotten some cool, like a cool, like, fawn cult, basically.
Also, his mouth would be moving if he was an actual goat, if he's talking to him.
We'll get to that in a second.
Unless he's using telepathy.
Yeah. Unless he's using telepathy or something like that. And he does later on use. I do have it in my notes for part 2, but he does end up like how does he end up eating that liver with that mask? Because he does have that like he like chomps down on that liver with the goat mask.
Yeah, it doesn't make.
Okay, well, it's a goat mask. It doesn't necessarily go straight down. It can go ahead a bit.
I kind of assumed that it was like basically like the head of a goat. And like that, it's just and like he's somehow able to like eat through it.
Yeah, but we're basing it off of the picture that was with the story.
Yeah.
Do you have a side profile of the picture?
No,
you don't. And also, what's to say he can't kind of just take it and go under the mask?
Because he says it's permanently adhered to his face.
Yes, you can't move it, but there could be. He has to eat.
I know he does. Yeah. That's why I'm thinking like it's like it. It's an odd situation. I think it's...
He can't remove it, but there's an opening underneath the snout where he can put shit in.
Probably, maybe. We don't know. It's not explained. We just hear that it's been permanently adhered to his face, and he took a bite out of this thing. Somehow.
Well, okay, then here's how it is. Even if there isn't an opening on the bottom, and it's an actual goat head, he did this. He just I pantomimed something and
he
essentially grabbed the jaws, opened it up, and then stuffed food in there. If it is an actual goat head,
yeah. If anything, that kind of gives some points away from the story because of the it should have described something like that or like explained how he was eating through the mask.
Yeah, that's one issue. But then you also have to think about the issue of a mask. Yeah. If he sneezes or throws up. In that mask that's adhered to him.
Yeah, it's got to be like
if there's a mouth opening.
Well, it does also explain later in the story that like there's a book on how like the book of Sekra does explain how to like meticulously like attach the goat head to some person. So there must maybe at that point we should have gotten some explanation of how the mask is adhered so that the person can basically utilize it like a actual.
So essentially, a couple extra lines in that part saying how to adhere to someone's head and have them function normally.
Yeah, because otherwise it doesn't make sense if it's just like the mask that we're all kind of thinking. Mm-hmm. And it would be cooler if it was actually just his head.
Yeah,
or if it was revealed to just be his head. Mm. But anyway, moving on to my last of my cultist corners until we go to part 2. We made our way downstairs, wandering through the entrance room and the living room and the sitting room, listening to Lombard's tales of him reading stories to the children by the fireside in the winter, and of the old man who was a master of the old piano sitting in the living room. I asked him about the double doors at the end of the entrance room, only to receive a response that I should not go in there, as I do not have high enough clearance to enter yet. We walked outside and we explored the grounds. So, for me, this description, like this little paragraph of description, made this whole thing kind of feel like this place is just Carcosa and Narnia had a baby, and then it was dreamed up by Guillermo del Toro, or maybe M. Night Shyamalan. just because of how like kind of like weirdly whimsy it is, but also mundane. And then also like the whole pioneer-y village kind of thing, or the whole pioneer-y kind of aspect of it, or like the not pioneer, like the Puritan or like pastoral approach to it. And that is my cultist corner. So
now onto my actual notes.
Well, that's also
part one.
Well, no, that's actually part of my part one as well. So that's the end of my part one as well. So do you have? Do you guys also have your notes in part? As like part
yeah,
one,
mine's set up by parts.
All right. Part one.
You have nothing to say, do you?
No, I have stuff to say.
Oh, okay.
The very first sentence, even.
Good for you.
And I
Is
have
it the same thing I have?
The lights of the Seattle skyline suddenly ignite as the city comes alive with the sounds and sights of night.
Literally?
Yeah, okay, I will lie. I did have that, but also that is a noir as fuck like descriptor, like flavory flourish of words.
Yeah.
It sounded like you had some elaborate word to use, but like of words.
No, like I get it. It makes it like just lights up. It's like with the sounds of screaming. It's on fire.
It's like as if the city's in a blackout, nothing's going on, and then the power just turns on, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we got power now!" Yeah,
yeah.
It's kind of weird. You're right.
That's what. That was my comment. Like, oh yeah, maybe there's a power outage.
Yeah.
Because most lights turn on when the sun is going down, so they wouldn't just suddenly turn on.
So if this started with an actual power outage, and then it's like, oh, good, the power's back on, and everyone's
happy.
happy.
Tie it into something like the cult's at hand or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. And then
share with the class.
My thought process for this bartender was that he's totally hitting on the guy.
Why is that?
The barkeep placed his hand on the table and inquired in the friendliest of tones, "How you doing?" And then continuing on that thought, I was like, "So, mister, I've been meaning to ask you, why do you come here all the time?"
Oh, so you just had like this like seductor's like the like ladies.
And like you feel like the bartender's like leaning over the table, like unbuttoning his shirt as he's talking. That really changes the tone.
Yeah. I mean,
especially since they're all both like really old as well.
And he's like thought about this guy for 12 years.
Yeah.
And just finally now mustered up the courage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is actually a love story.
It is, yes, indeed.
Alright. And then I have a hilarious misread.
Okay.
Which added a bit of surrealism is on my part. So, I'll say the quote
correctly first.
Well, no, the way I read it initially, and then I had to go back.
Okay.
The tankard chuckled and asked in return.
The tankard?
Yes. What?
It's the drunkard.
Oh, okay.
But you read tankard? Why?
There's also a Disney movie where like objects have like are sentient.
Yeah, why not?
Yes, to be August for 12 years on this. Just God.
All right, and then the section where the guy just bursts into laughter, and it lasts nearly a full minute of him just laughing.
Yeah,
it is awkward.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really like weird like time usage. I think in this story a little bit.
Now, does it mean a minute or a minute, like an actual minute?
Nearly a full minute. Nearly.
Just like,
It's just sort of a stopwatch if you want to see how long I'm
no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay.
1 minute later.
Yes.
And they're having a nice conversation, and then the bartender just starts yelling. So, okay. So, finally, his outburst died off, and he asked, "You wanted to know why I wasn't talking?" To which the bartender responded, "Yes!" yelled the bartender. "It's been a riddle I've been trying to figure out for years!"
Yep.
Like everything else is nice and calm. They're having a good
Yeah. He did also
12 years.
Maybe he just really hates having to repeat himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't need to go on about that 12-year comment.
Yeah.
Why not? Go ahead.
I kicked that dead horse a couple times.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just so
Sorry, that dead goat-headed man.
Mm-hmm.
He's just been playing the long con. Although I did have at this point some sort of speculation, like is he like a vampire or something, and he needs someone to come and ask him.
Oh,
It's like the door situation.
Yeah.
That could be a really awesome reveal. It's like, and I've actually been, well, the true reason I've been waiting for 12 years, after I've told you this entire story about how I became a vampire, is because I needed you to invite me.
Yeah. Or he's just socially awkward.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Hence why he sits by himself and stares at the
But
wall.
then it's revealed, no, it's not the case. He's been waiting for somebody to talk to him.
Because he's socially awkward, so he doesn't meet people.
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess, yeah.
You know, he's very
okay.
lonely by himself, so if someone approaches him, he'll talk to them, but he's not going to outright go, "Hi, I'm
He's not gonna start
Robert,
dealing
how
with
are
it.
you? I was chased by a goat man. Where are you going?"
This is why I don't talk to people.
Yeah, exactly. He tried that once.
Yeah, that's what I was like. This is because like the reason he doesn't tell anybody is because he's had experience like in other towns.
Yes, exactly.
Alright. And then, but before we get any of the real story going on, and we have the hooded big robe guy, my mind was thinking Friar Tuck. And he's going to lead the guy to
What is the
to Robin Hood and Sherwood Forest.
Sherwood Forest? Yeah, that's what it was.
And all that, but
He's married
in
to that.
America.
American Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm. Robert Wood. He's going to become Robert Wood. Wow.
Well, his name is Robert Elm, so like Elm is a type of
Elm is wood.
Yeah.
Oh my god. The connections.
Yes.
Yes.
And then it didn't turn out that way, so I was disappointed.
How unfortunate.
Yes.
I know. And then the other thing that I have here is, how did he not notice the goat masks? Or the goat mask?
Because
Really
it's dark.
And he had a cowl on. Or a
Yes,
hood.
but the snout.
He had a really big hood on.
The snout.
He had a very big hood on.
It's very dark.
Yeah, it's very dark. The hood concealed it in darkness. I'm not lying.
You
I'm
can
not.
still make out shadows and such.
He was also really distressed and half asleep.
And it was dark.
Yeah, it wasn't light until they got to the party, and at that point there was just torchlight.
Also, plot convenience.
Yeah,
But I also had the same thought. I didn't have a note on it. Mainly, not because of the snout, because of the horns.
But
Horns,
it's
they
explained,
explain that,
okay, that the horns are curved.
So it's a ram situation?
Yeah. So the picture is actually wrong.
That's why I was confused.
yeah. The picture it's supposed to be a ram's head if it's curled like that.
I'll look at that again, because that's totally wrong.
Yeah.
So is that... I guess that wasn't made for this?
No, that's my one
was
issue
probably
with
cool,
the picture is that it's completely wrong to
Yeah.
the description.
It's a cool picture though. It just doesn't fit the story. The only reason it fits the story is because it's a goat occultist in the woods. But yeah. So.
Yeah. And that's the end of my part 1.
I mean, for all you know, they could still curl behind the ears, just behind the ears up here. Like, they go up and back.
No.
It's still behind the ears.
No.
You know?
No.
Like, if you have a level at your ear going straight up, it's like behind... What?
Stop.
I'm just saying.
You're wrong.
But that's a goat.
It is, but it's not the right kind of goat. Also,
all goats have horns like that?
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. The creature that we have in this is not a goat. It's a ram.
It's a ram.
Yeah.
Which that's actually an author's. That's actually a mistake from the author for making the, because I don't think there are goats that have curled.
Wouldn't that be a mountain goat?
Oh, you're right. There are such things as mountain goats. So apparently, he has mountain goats in Iowa.
Yeah, fuck it.
They escaped from the zoo.
No, one escaped just to make a mask. All the other goats...
No, they saved the animals from the zoo when they burned down the original village.
Yes, of course.
So apparently, goats with curled horns are barals. And that is about the only other goat that seems to have those.
Cool.
Like the ones that don't just like, yeah. Okay, actually, you know what? No, never mind. Okay, that looks like it's basically just a... You know what? Actually, you know what? I'm seeing some goats, like some farm goats, not mountain goats, that do have horns like that.
Yep.
That one specifically. So it might be like a rare kind of like...
Enhance. Just give me your phone.
Yeah, sorry for the audience. I'll make sure I have a goat, like a goat creature in the title card. A proper goat.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess technically it's a proper one because, like, but I would not have thought. I mean, I guess like okay, once I saw if I was Robert and I saw and the hood came off and it was revealed,
You would immediately assume ram.
No, I wouldn't. I don't know if I would or not because it does kind of look. If it is in fact like that, it would be like a goat, not a ram. Because a ram and a goat do have a distinction between them in terms of their like head structure and so that. So yeah. So
regardless, the picture's wrong.
The picture provided for the story on the wiki is inaccurate.
Cool.
Compared to what is actually written. And but the writing is not wrong because there are goats with curled horns like that.
Yes. Yeah. Indeed.
That aren't mountain goats. Mm-hmm. All right. Gamer, you're up.
You're done?
For part 1, yeah.
Okay, well, I only had 3 for part 1, and 2 of them have been talked about, so I have 1 here. The quote is, this is in regards to him talking about his wife. It was a wonder she kept me around. One night everything fell apart. I can't even remember why, but she left me on the side of the road and told me to find your own way home, you sack of crap. I remember my heart sinking as she pulled away, and I began to wonder, blah, 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 blah. So he can't remember why? Maybe it's because you kept hitting her? Because, at this point...
Maybe because you're an abusive asshole?
I highly doubt that the first and only time this dude hit her was with a trash can lid. That seems like he's hit her so many times that he's bored of all of his other means of hitting this person.
Also, not to say anything about the author for the story, but nice explanation for why an abusive asshole can get off the hook for being an abusive asshole, because a cult made his wife do it. A cult made his wife manipulate him to be angry.
Yeah,
that's kind of a dick move, though. In terms of
it makes him a redeemable character.
Yeah, but at the same time, I was not rooting for this guy initially because of
hence why he's a redeemable character. Do you like him by the end?
I'm kind of indifferent, honestly, by the end.
Exactly. So he's redeemed himself at least partially because he was manipulated into doing that. And before being married, he was not angry.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it just I know that might be the one and only time he hit her, but it just seems weird that he would grab such a random weapon.
Yeah. Fuck.
Mm-hmm. Unless he already had it in his hand and he lashed out. I don't know.
It could be made that he doesn't even know why. It's because maybe she just because again she was working for the cult, so this is all set up. that there was no reason actually. Like initially, she just basically got angry, kicked him out of the truck, and like threw him on the side of the road and left.
Well, I'm saying the reason is because he hit her with a fucking trash can.
Well, yeah,
that's more than enough reason to leave someone at the side of the road.
But wasn't that like a separate incident? I didn't think that was like part of the same incident.
It's not. This is weeks after.
Okay,
but regardless, it's still a good enough reason to tell someone to get out of the car.
Yeah,
hit me with a trash can lid.
Yeah,
that's a dick move.
Get the hell out.
Yeah. Indeed.
All right,
and that's all I got for part 1.
Cool. All right, on to part 2. Quote, "It made me shiver that I could not figure out what prevented me from standing at the ceremony. Muffled speech resonated from outside my room as the door opened. A goat-headed Lombard strolled into the room and closed the door behind him. The story goes from horror to whimsy like a dance, and I kind of love it for that. Like it goes from like horror scene." Or like horror like scene and like scenes of dread of like as the characters like speculating what's going to happen next, to silly things like this, where a goat-headed Lombard just strolls in and closes the door. Like, oh, hello, morning. Mm-hmm. Just like the surrealness, I think, is really what it gets me about the story. It's just like with the goat-headed man. And then gather your strength. You will need it for later. Blah. Gather your strength. You will need it for later. I have gotten it approved by the Circle. I shall give you a tour of the house and the grounds around 3 today. So try and get those legs working by then. That's nice and all, but I really need to get back to my fiancée and apologize. Maybe just get back into town and clean up, is what a sane person would say.
He can't walk.
Yeah, but still, like then
he's bedridden. He can't move.
but he's apparently able to like walk around the grounds.
Yeah, by 3 because he had.
So after that, yeah, like rather than rather than take me around your tour around your place, can you just like take me into town?
I'm also because he's just regaining the use of his legs. He's like hobbling around.
I know
he's not sprinting.
And honestly, at a certain point in this story, I stopped yelling at Robert to nope out of this whole situation. Because I was just kind of curious as to where this was going to go and when it was going to go dark again until part 3. So, next one is... We made a left turn around the house to find 3 buildings off in the distance. I asked Lombard what they were for. He said one of them was the chapel, now dilapidated and unused, a small building used for a school, and a smaller concrete building used for storage. I shrugged plainly, and we moved on. No biggie. It's just a cult compound. This is fine. Everything is fine. And then next we have... Yeah, I suppose. I miss Elizabeth quite a bit, and I want to make amends. Good. Lombard paused. Robert, if you could stay just 1 more week, we feel like you have become a member of the family around here, and... We wish to perform a departure ritual this Sunday, just to say goodbye. You have been one of the kindest outsiders we have encountered in a long time. I feel at this point the ritual is not going to be anything sinister. And then again, mind you, this is going to be a comment from right before I finish the story. Like this is
in the moment
for reals. Yeah, in the moment for reals. I feel at this point the ritual is not going to be anything sinister in nature. They are really just going to send him off and like with a little party. Mm-hmm. What am I talking about? This is a creepypasta. He, of course, is going to be slaughtered or marked as a cult, inducted into the cult group or something like that.
I'm gonna say it would be hilarious if he just like walks into a dark room and is like, "Hello," turns the light on, and like, "Surprise! Like, surprise!"
Yeah. Oh, you guys, I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah.
It's like, come back whenever you can. Like, yeah, I kind of wish that. And then, and later, we have this quote. He then plunged his hands into Alabaster's twitching body. And
that escalated quickly from what we just talked about.
and wrenched his arms upward several times until what appeared to be a liver was ripped away. I nearly vomited. Lombard held this dripping organ above his head and shouted, "For the glory of Sekra!" He plunged the hunk of flesh into his mouth like a wild beast. Called it!
Yeah.
Also... And then I also...
You called that alabaster was going to be sacrificed?
I called it some... Actually, I kind of figured that he was like either killed off screen...
Yeah,
or he was going to be... Yeah. But yeah, called the fact that like this whole the ceremony to send him off is sending him off to the grave.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Also, we brought this up earlier, but yeah, it's like my comment is right after called it is, how does he eat with that mask? I'm still not convinced it's not a goat head for reals.
Just an opening.
Yeah, I know. I'm not directing it out. I'm just like that.
Yeah.
Popped in my message. Popped up in my comments. The next one I have is a bit of something that threw me off when I read it. So I'm not sure if this is actually grammar Nazi or not, but here we go. I had been climbing trees in my neighborhood park since childhood, and the challenge of scaling the banquet hall's walls. Yeah, and the challenge of scaling the banquet hall's walls came easily to me. Wait, what? This is when after he takes his shoes off and like goes to sneak downstairs.
Yeah,
but then
do you have a point on this too, Mikey?
Well, walls and trees are different.
Well, yes.
No, just what's happening.
What's happening right now? Because then he like sneaks out of the house, like through the front door, and goes outside, and then climbs up the outer wall of that other building, and then it seems like that was actually meant to, like that sequence like of his climbing and some of that was meant to be like left for late, like him harkening back to his climbing trees in his neighborhood park should have been like mentioned as he was climbing the outer wall, not the inside.
Yeah, because essentially it's saying the house fell silent, took off his boots, slid the door open, and stepped into the dark abyss. So he's now in the hallway.
Yes.
I've been climbing trees all my life, blah, 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 blah.
So
like, why are you talking about that?
Yeah.
And then after making my way down the stairs, through the foyer, and out the door without much of a sound, I was impressed by my sneaking abilities. I ran around to the side of the hall and began my ascension. Up the side of the wall.
In a hall?
Inside.
What?
Yeah, and began my ascension. The climb was easy enough. Several chunks were missing from the old bricks, which means apparently the inside hull was bricks, creating excellent handholds, which wasn't long before I found myself on the roof. I'm very confused.
So confused. Is it actually Carcosa? like is outside and inside the same?
It sounded like what the author was trying to get across is he went outside and climbed the outside wall.
Yeah. Also, when you said it's like, I was impressed with my sneaking abilities. Yes, and also my spider climbing. What? Seriously, what? Because he's just again, more of a joke on the scaling the banquet hall's walls.
Yeah, like you assume it's like a painted wall and he's just like climbing it.
Exactly, yeah. Like Spider-Man again.
Yeah. It's a weird word.
Yeah. And that is my notes for part 2.
Alright. Part 2.
Got nothing.
No, I stopped.
Guess I'm doing that like, alright, stretch, gotta get this.
Yeah, I use that all the time as a build-up for a joke that I have nothing to say.
Alright. So the first thing I have here is a quote which I had issue with, but then it explained itself later. But I'll say it anyway.
Damn story, doing thing right, explaining questions.
The event you were the center of was known as a neophyte's sacrament. We give the newcomer a small dose of hallucinogenic and provoke you to reveal your true feelings to us in order to tell if we can trust you. And I'm just thinking to myself, how did they know that he was going to be at that field at that time?
That could have been a hint as to like a slip to like hint at like that they knew him all along, or just a plotting convenience.
Yeah.
Or it's a situation where they were just going out there to party and cook marshmallows and make s'mores, but Larry couldn't show up, so there's an extra chair, and there just happens to be a new guy. It's like, oh, a new guy, we should do an initiation ritual. Right, guys? Yeah!
And they just happen to have everything they needed for the ritual right there.
Well, yeah, because they bring up everything for the ceremony.
Because you never know.
Exactly, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a good cultist would do. I mean, what?
Yeah, so I was just like, how did they know?
It's really like, honestly, like, and the way he says it, like, very like calm, and, like assuring, like this is perfectly fine. It's like, run, Robert, run. You're among a cult. Get out now.
Yes. And then the other question I have that comes out that says, how does one laugh rhetorically?
Rhetorical question, Mikey.
Yeah, it's a rhetorical question, but he laughs it rhetorically. So it's like, so he started the whole thing, the whole goat head thing. Like,
yeah, I guess it's more just like a chuckle to your voice as you're
yeah.
So maybe he started the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, because he's laughing at the like the silliness of it, but also asking a rhetorical question because he knows the answer of it.
Yeah.
Like,
but does he?
No, he's just repeating the.
It doesn't say. It doesn't say like there's a painting. It's like his name, and then there's like a quote underneath him. I started the goat head thing.
Yeah, but I mean, like he's been told it, so it's like when somebody like
he hasn't though.
He was said like his like Lombard says like that he is the one that started the whole like the goat head thing, like right before he says that.
I don't think it's doubled down like that. I would have
because that's like that would explain why I said it rhetorically because that's something that people do like they basically just repeat what somebody said like because. But just as a confirmation, even though there's no need for the confirmation. Hence why it's rhetoric. Or rhetorical.
I just remember, like, he essentially went, that's my great-grandfather, and then Robert's like, so he started it?
I'm pretty sure it says, like, that he was the one that
I have a note on this, so okay. We'll get to it. We'll get back to it, don't worry.
Alright. So, the explaining of the property and how big this house is.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not a farmhouse. This is a mansion.
Yeah.
Yes.
My mind is like, this is a huge
or this
mansion.
Is a farmhouse
like,
that's been built up into a mansion.
Yeah. And then we get this quote. From the outside, the house was massive. It was clearly some kind of old farmhouse. And it's just like... God, you're just
Like an old farmhouse is not massive, at all.
Like an estate or a plantation.
Yeah,
like plantation would have been a better name because plantations were generally huge. Yeah. Like we're basically just like
also for all we know, this guy lives in a tiny little shack,
and
in city.
It is explained that it was the mayor's house.
Yes,
yeah. But still, like to call it a farmhouse.
Yeah,
like maybe it's styled as a farmhouse, like because like with like the whole like the white paneling and the porch, like the over covered porch and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like that. When I see those kind of houses, like that looks like a farmhouse to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like this one, like the inside did not look like a farm. Like
because you see, there's farmhouses and then there's the mayor's farmhouse.
Yeah.
Which is massive,
otherwise known again as a plantation, or or whatever that type of house that plantations have. Because
farmhouses,
because those are like there's farmhouses, and then there's rich asshole farmhouses.
Indeed, like what mayors are.
Yeah.
Apologies to all mayors listening.
Not to kink shame mayors.
Yeah, indeed.
Alright, so to me this next section seemed kind of unneeded.
Okay.
Because Robert asks a question, he gets an answer, and then here's a quote, I shrugged plainly and we moved on. It's like, well...
Yeah.
You already got your answer, you're already moving on, you don't need to...
It's just him being like, all right, like that's the answer.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. I feel I didn't need to be there.
That's true.
And
outside of just to reveal the complex, the compound that is this like cult.
And another thing is that Lombard says "friend" a lot.
Yes, he does.
And the first few times, and then continuing on, I was like, I'm not your friend, buddy.
I'm not your buddy, guy.
I'm not your guy, pal.
I'm not your pal, friend.
Yeah.
I'm not your friend, buddy. He's not your buddy, guy.
Yeah.
The Canadian argument. Or Canadian... Is it the Canadian argument? Is that what that's called?
I don't know, it's just a Terrence Phillip joke. I don't know if it has a specific name.
And then the end of part 2 ended up being more gory than I was expecting.
Is that the sacrifice?
I think so.
Yeah. That's when they sell. They rip out alabaster. They cut open alabaster and take his liver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was fine with it.
I mean, you're a cultist. You do it yourself.
To be fair, again, okay. So my thing with the ending of this one is that it should have ended at part 2. At the end of part 2, or there should have been a very quick. There should have been a very quick escape sequence.
Yeah.
After part 2, and then we're done. But then we got part 3.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so
my turn.
Yep, with part 2.
My turn. Okay. So, early on in part 2, when Lombard is talking to Robert, and as he's sick in bed and giving him Lombard support,
I'm not gonna lie. Every time I was like, I keep wanting to say Lombard support.
Yeah. He is giving him support. Why are you guys laughing? I understand. Anyways, so he tells the entire backstory, and Lombard says well, I guess it doesn't matter. Quote is, before I could respond, Lombard asked any questions, and I shook my head just as a woman wearing simple brown robes came into the room. I have questions at this point. Mm-hmm. When can I leave?
Yep.
Why does the mask need to be permanently adhered to your head?
Yep. How does nobody know about you and your group?
Why couldn't I stand up in the circle?
Yeah, what was that seemingly supernatural element where I was like paralyzed in place?
Yep. Why are my legs sore and feel so heavy? Why was your meeting last night in the middle of the woods focused on me?
Why do you induct complete strangers into your party with hallucinogenic drinks?
Yeah, so there's questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
He's just like, no, I'm fine. I understand everything. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's weird. And then, essentially that happens, and Robert's like looking outside at things, and then Lombard comes in and says, "Ready?" Yeah, I jumped with surprise as Lombard broke the silence of the room. Time had passed faster than expected. Come, follow me, friend. My only note here is you're not going to let him answer before ordering him around? Because he just asked him if he's ready. Like, are you ready? Let's go. And then he didn't answer him. He just kind of went. I guess going is answering that you're ready, I suppose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Although generally, if it's like, if someone's over there doing a thing, you're like, are you ready? No? Like, it's common courtesy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he should see that he's a monster just because of that.
Sure.
Because he hasn't given the common courtesy of waiting.
Yep.
So then it's just part of their pastoral, totally normal, or totally. It's just their eclectic way of life in this little commune, and you're just not open-minded enough to know. Yeah, no, it's totally a fucking creep cult.
Well, it is because he is the leader, so it's the follow the leader mentality.
But he's asking him a question.
Yes. But in that question is actually rhetorical.
Rhetorical question, Lombard.
Yeah.
I guess.
Rhetorical question, Robert. Let's go.
Yeah. Are you ready? Tough shit, we're going. Yeah. Pretty much.
Yep.
Anyway, so on to the painting. So, actually, let's keep the previous section here.
Sorry, just not to cut you off. I wonder if the painting is actually the picture we have in the story. Like, cause like it's just every time.
The one that moves aside, and that's his. Yeah, maybe. Either way, is that you in the painting? I asked. No, that's the founder of the circle, my great grandfather, Ambrose Garrett Lombard. What a great man! I wish I could have known him. So he started the whole goat head thing. I laughed rhetorically. We made our way downstairs, though. We made our way downstairs, wandering through. So, not going to answer his question?
He did say it rhetorically. He didn't expect an answer.
Did this man that lives in the woods catch up on his rhetorical question?
Okay, here's the thing. The, are you ready was the rhetorical, and the author's just catching up, and it's like, oh, this question, this one must have been rhetorical. So...
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were they just trading rhetoricals?
Yeah.
There was a rhetorical earlier, so he has to counter with a rhetorical immediately after?
Yeah. Sure. It's the battle of rhetorical questions. Who are you?
Yes. Either way, it's weird.
Yes.
And it doesn't outright say... aside from saying... wait, where is it? The founder of the circle.
Okay, that's true.
But for all we know, he might have founded the circle, but maybe his son is the one who's like, hey, my father started this, and they all are about the goats, so let's... But
it's not brought up, so it's neither here or there.
Yeah. I'm just saying, it's not clarified that he started the goat head thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So, after waking up and getting a tour of the place, the quote is, we walked back to my room, and Lombard instructed me that now that I know where I am, I can move about the property at will, blah, 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 blah. So my note here is that took all day to see around the house, talk about the painting, and see the plot of land that you live on? All you did before this was wake up and look out the window for a minute. You're losing time here. Notice
Get the fuck out.
No, he's like literally not able to conceive that he's wasting entire days doing nothing.
Yeah.
Some shit's going on. Notice it. And that's it until part 3, because I've talked about other things.
Okay, part 3.
The best part. Oh, everyone's favorite part.
So then we move on to part 3, and I start off with another quote. During the following days, I felt my insanity slipping away as I slowly came to grips with my fate. I stayed in bed most of the days, refusing to eat and trying to relive as many happy memories as I could before Sunday's inevitable bloodletting. Several times during my stay, I had seen people running for the woods, but they were almost immediately apprehended by groups of men clad in red cloaks. This is literally the first time we've heard of these people trying to escape or leave, unless it's just starting to happen, like with this next week.
No, it's the first time being mentioned.
Yeah, and on that, throughout this story, Robert has just been passively stuck on this property, almost by his own volition. And kind of to bring up what you just said earlier about like losing time and stuff, and not noticing it. They do state it's because he's recovering, but like I feel he should have tried to escape a bit more before now.
They haven't shown any hostility, so he doesn't need to leave.
Until
they're awkward, but they're also feeding him and making him forget about his problems.
Yeah, and that's like the thing. Like I don't know, it's just maybe that's a good enough explanation. But like now that we're at this point, I'm just like, why haven't you not tried to escape earlier? Like I'd be still mistrusting of these people, regardless of if they were being like this nice. If they're acting that weird, like as well as being nice, I don't know if I'd still be trusting of them at all. And sorry, hang on a second.
Don't go on to another one if he has a thing to say.
I lost my spot on the one note still.
Oh, okay.
Okay, what were we going to say?
Well, the thing you have to realize is that he's currently at a rehab center.
This is like a very early, rehab center for anger management.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They just use very, very esoteric.
Esoteric.
Esoteric solutions to rehabilitate patients such as those, as funded by the SNTF.
Oh, of course, yeah. Who else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Supernatural Task Force. That's what they're for.
But
although, honestly, what you just explained is not supernatural at all. Well, I guess the esoteric means are.
Yeah,
but they're treating normal people.
Yeah,
which they wouldn't do.
Unless they need funding, so they're getting actually like the families are paying for this and like also funding more further SNTF stuff because they can't use taxpayer dollars.
They're essentially running like the beta of doing this, and then once they figure it out, they make it seem mundane, so then they can make normal buildings too. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Grassroots, man. Like they're just they're making sure like they can this new age hippie stuff will work. Back in the '60s, so. They do state that he's been recovering, like I said. I mentioned that a bit more. But yeah, like he doesn't try to escape, but he's just like investigating the property, and especially given the discoveries he has made, I feel like this part was added kind of as an afterthought, like the whole like him seeing people running, like escaping, like he's just now noticing this. Unless he had I guess I had noticed some other people running before, but it's just now I realized that they were running to try and get away.
Yeah,
like maybe they're like he thought that
I thought they were playing tag.
Exactly, or I thought they were just playing out on the fields or something like that, near the woods. But now I've come to realize that they were in fact trying to escape.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next one is: are you ready to leave us, friend? We are making preparations for the ceremony now. When you are ready, please approach the painting at the other side of the second floor. Slide the painting to the right, and it should reveal a staircase. The staircase leads to my chambers. I need to perform the finishing touches for the farewell. Whoa, now, we aren't those kind of friends, Lombard. Sorry, just had to get that out of my system.
Of course.
And then, this is when he's in the chamber, and he... went to go for the door, but then I spun around to see a bloody Lombard rising from the carpet. His mask was now distorted and blood-soaked. You, friend, are smarter than the average fool we dragged off to this place, he croaked. I gritted my teeth. I'm leaving this place. I know what happened a week ago. Now tell me what's really going on. No, just run. You've got more than enough answers of this place. Just fucking run. Don't ask more questions. Just run.
He's been very inquisitive, though.
I know, too inquisitive for his own good.
There's the hallway that he didn't know anything about, and then that other place.
Yeah, he's been too inquisitive for his own good.
He needs information, so when he gets out of here, he can write a story about it.
And then the part
and put it on the internet.
And then this is the part of the story this is the part of part 3 that really ruined it for me. As you wish. What I told you about our history that morning was, in fact, true. Though there were a few things I left out to keep you under my thumb. Those 2 cousins who found the town are closer to us than you think. One of them was my great-grandfather, and the other was yours. What? Really?
No, that's impossible.
We're doing this revelation? Really? Don't get me wrong. It's not bad. If you hint at it with something, like maybe give some familiarity as he's passing scenes or something, like maybe like you see a human version of the great-grandparents or something like that in like a portrait or a picture or something like that. How did Lombard even know Robert would be in that fucking field? And it is described later that it's because the girlfriend like had planted him there.
Making this entire null and void.
I don't care. You answered so many fucking questions about this place. You yet leave even bigger questions because of this fucking revelation.
But they're answered.
Kind of.
They're
I really do not give them... I don't know. I did not like this one. However... sorry. This is actually the quote. However, your great-grandfather, blinded to reality by his morals, left the village. Just before the birth of his child, he made a vow to Dialis, the brother and polar opposite of our glorious Sekra, god of morality and justice, that his bloodline would be forever devoted to the eradication of our order. This whole ordeal has been an effort to destroy the one human that can destroy us and end the bloodline once and for all. Or you could have left him to his own devices, oblivious to any of this, and gone about your day. Or killed him when you found him in the cornfield sleeping.
They have to do it through proper channels. There's a certain way you have to do it.
Yeah.
You're a cultist.
Okay.
You understand.
It's
sacrifice.
And it's explained that he couldn't kill him in the field because his aura was too strong.
Then have the farmer who owns that field just run him down with a thresher.
It would wake him up.
Yeah.
Or hire some random thugs to go and get him, because they're not going to be affected by it.
There'll be an investigation, and it'll lead back to them.
They can cover it up. They've got
they're not the SNTF.
They've been doing a pretty good job of covering people's disappearances up apparently so far.
I mean, it doesn't say they kill a lot. Well, I guess they do kill a lot.
There are a lot of things in that on that.
That could be their own kind, though.
I don't think it
and
was.
Goats. I mean, we don't know how many goats are in the area.
All right. Anyway, continuing. I shall get to that in a moment. But here's the secret you will truly enjoy. Normally, one of your blood could cause a member of our order with an aura of dark. What the fuck?
Of dark?
Could one of your blood could cause a member of our order with an aura as dark as mine to drop dead at a single touch. I took this into account when dealing with you. I've been nullifying your powers with the one thing that will weaken it. Human flesh and blood. Exposition, get it out ASAP.
Nice nostalgic reference.
Next thing you know, they'll start countering one another and dropping down their sick counter revelations and explanations. Oh wait, scratch that, they do. Lombard clutched his... then we move on to the next quote. Lombard clutched his bloody stump. I see you wizened up to my trickery.
Wait, what bloody stump?
So yeah, his bloody stump. Remember, when he grabbed his arm and ripped.
Did he actually rip his arm off?
Yeah,
it disintegrated.
It disintegrated as he was.
I thought it just kind of it withered down.
No,
it actually went
sloughed off. Yeah, it completely.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then it's revealed I hadn't eaten any of your food for a while.
I didn't know it actually vaporized his arm.
Yeah.
Sorry. Continue.
So Lombard's there sitting, clutching his bloody stump. I see you wizened up to my trickery, clever man that you are. No matter, you will not leave this place alive. I will see to that. I shouted to him. You will never kill me, you monster. As soon as I escape, I'm taking Elizabeth and getting as far away from here as I can. You will never be able to find us. I don't think I have ever seen a story fall apart so fast from interesting whimsical cult horror to an OC Gary Stu character action garbage. I seriously think Part 3 didn't need to go this way at all. He could have fled the night of the first that sacrifice, that test run, and the story would have been so much stronger for it.
They would have caught him, brought him back, and murdered him.
Maybe they were all at the ceremony, leaving him to be able to run away, or they could have had some kind of thing where he was sneaking past. He was able to sneak past some of the people that were protecting the perimeter.
There's a guy with a gun in a random trench that you cannot get to. So I'm sure there's random guards everywhere. I don't care.
It would be better than the shit we just had.
You'd rather him just run and get murdered.
Yes.
All right.
Or finding a way. That story contrivance of him escaping that would be better than what we got with the Gary Stu. I actually descended from the counter of your cult, and I have powers to stop you, and I'm going to defeat you, and we're going to run away, and you're never going to be able to catch me again. Fuck off. That's why I hate Part 3. And that is my end of my notes for Part 3.
Yeah. So,
go on.
Continuing on your last bit there, but as soon as I escape, I'm taking Elizabeth. At that point, I realized, just at that point or just before, that Elizabeth was in on it, and then the next exposition dump says Elizabeth was in on it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yep. Figured it out before I was told. Points for me. Alright. So, other thoughts here. This goat mask, I have to bring it up again.
Okay.
Of course.
Must be really hard to keep clean. Just because it's a goat mask.
Yes.
And I mean, as the example is, I could still see little bits of hastily wiped away viscera clinging to his mask.
Hastily wiped away viscera for those at home that couldn't understand that. You were slurring a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's hard to keep a mask clean, especially when it's stuck to your face forever.
Yeah.
Nothing's saying that it is a legit goat. It could be like a synthetic actual goat mask.
1960s?
Synthetic actual goat mask.
I'm pretty sure it's a real goat.
Yeah, it's probably.
It's like taxidermed goat head, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. And then I started thinking, what if he doesn't actually make it out alive? And then the guy that's in the tavern is actually a ghost.
Oh, that would have been fucking amazing!
If he died in the story.
If he just, like, again, especially, if you didn't like the whole contrivance of the fact that, like, he couldn't, like, what if he escaped? Or if he, because he wouldn't have escaped because there's, like, they've got, like, people guarding the perimeter. What if he didn't? He got killed or, like, dragged away and then, like, and then, at the bar, he then just vanishes. Like, it's like, what do you mean? And he looks over and he's gone. It's like, what the fuck? His place has been, like haunted by a ghost who's been waiting 12 years for somebody to mention so he can pass on.
Yeah.
Holy shit! That would be amazing. What a revelation! Yes! Holy shit! I fucking.
It's interesting seeing such polar opposites of you being like, fuck you! It's like throwing the frickin' pages down and then Mikey laying down something and you're like, yeah!
Well, because, like, no,
everything's the best.
Because, like, I loved the story. Here's the thing. I loved the story until part 3, because then we got bullshit OC character, do not steal, with superpowers because reasons. And fuck you, I do what I want answers, fuck you, I'm leaving, kind of thing. I was just like, fuck off, I didn't want that. Like, you set it up all perfectly for him to, like, find out that he was going to be sacrificed, and so he could have ran, and maybe he escaped, maybe he didn't, and then we get that, and then you lay down that, and I was like, that is a better fucking ending. Oh.
We should write creepypasta.
Shit!
Why don't we do that?
I mean, I've done it a little bit, but... Fuck. Whew. I need a cigarette. Alright, continue, Mikey. The E stands for epic. Epic smackdown with a better ending. The E stands for epic ending!
It'd be E then. It'd be Mikey.
I don't even care.
Okay, that's fair.
Awesome. That's awesome. Alright, continue.
Good Mikey.
Alright. So, we've sort of established this is, summertime-ish?
Yeah.
Because he's able to sleep in a field.
In a cornfield, yeah.
And then, the day that he's supposed to leave, he basically gets up at 6 p.m.
Because he's so tired. And it's dark, right?
No.
Oh, it's not dark?
He takes a couple moments, then goes outside, then it's dark.
He's losing time.
Yeah, there's already been...
There's some kind of... Sekra has some kind of aura of, like, time dilation in this season. Or, like, time flux.
Yeah.
It's just weird that he doesn't bring it up ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because basically he goes to Lombard's study, and then there's moonlight coming in, and it was just 6 o'clock a couple moments ago.
Mm-hmm. Also, one quick thing I just need to bring up, because we talked about, like, the powers of Sekra over time, like the weird time flux and stuff. Sekra doesn't get explained well enough in this story. Like, we get that book of Sekra, but he skims through it.
Yeah, because he can't read it.
It's not important.
Because in Old English. And it's like, it was kind of, like, I kind of would like to know, like, you answer all these other questions about this cult and some of it, except for their god.
It's not important.
Apparently not.
Would you like an entire part that is just transcribed book?
Not transcribed book, but it would honestly probably be better than part 3 as it is.
Yeah. And
I mean, if you're going to have the characters stay till Sunday, you might as well drop down some a cool revelation in that regard, rather than have him be like, I was part of this all along. Fucking bullshit. Sorry, continue.
And then the big part where this fell apart for me was his escape route. Because he gets into the concrete shack that's used for storage.
Mm-hmm.
And just my visual is there's 3 buildings.
Yeah.
And one of them's a concrete shack.
Yeah.
And suddenly there's this tunnel.
Yeah, there's a tunnel in the back of the shack.
At the back of the shack. Which isn't really explained other than it's like, well, when I think of shack...
okay, now I know what you're doing.
As the audience of a practical effect again.
For the audience at home, Gabriel is using a Timbit box as the shack to represent it, and then using his phone underneath the shack on an angle to represent the tunnel that goes down into the earth.
But
that's why you can't see it outside.
But it doesn't explain that he's going down. It's going
through a tunnel. It's a tunnel.
Alright.
Do you need elevation statistics for this?
So assuming it goes down.
Okay.
We're into the ground, gets the small shack, has a tunnel that goes down.
Yeah.
We keep going down and through the ground.
It just has to go down enough that it could level up.
There is actually an explanation for this. This could be a logical explanation, but it had to be added, description-wise. The area behind the shack is hilly. The front part of the shack goes out onto a hill, and then the hill basically is covers up.
If that was said, yes.
I've actually seen that happen in when I was in Newfoundland on Bell Island. There's a mine shaft opening that is a large concrete structure, or not large, but a concrete structure, like a shed sized, that goes into the side of a hill, and then you can see it go basically on a very small angle into the.
So there's a real life thing that's just if there was a hill behind it, but that should be yes.
And so we go down a level. We're in this tunnel.
Sure, if that's the thing.
If that's the thing, yeah. So he's going through this tunnel, and then he finds a room, and then
we
the guy.
We enter the first-person shooter game.
Yeah.
No, it's third-person sneaking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And
or it could be first-person. It doesn't.
It kind of, to me, I was like,
I like how you pantomimed holding a knife like a gun.
As I'm humming the Doom music, I was really, I should have been doing Wolfenstein.
You should be doing Friggin' Splinter Cell or
I don't know.
It's sneaking up behind a guy and stabbing him in the head.
Maybe just because when I think of Earth and Tunnels, I think of the muddled graphics of the Doom games.
I guess.
Yeah, and then he finds a hatch, which has a ladder that goes down even further.
Down to a bank of something? Does it mention a creek or a river?
The ladder met the ground in an alcove on the shore of a small pond.
Yeah. Where they've been dumping all the...
Another practical effect.
Refuse. Oh, God.
This is a hill. Or something.
At home, Gamer is using a guitar case.
And then this is the shack.
Okay. For the audience at home, the Tim Burton box that is the shed slid down the...
a little bit. So let's say it's on a hill or something. Okay. Or wait, okay, so this is... I gotta level it out. Hang on. So this is the flat area, the height of the compound and everything. Okay, and then you have this is awkward. And then you have the tunnel situation underneath. So now you're under here, and you're going. Sorry, I'll do it in the sense you can see. And then you're going straight across, and then all of a sudden, it's a hill here. So if you go down again, okay, fine. But now you're at sea level, and you enter out on the hill here, exit out on the hill there.
Support to our Patreon to have us afford a camera so we can then do visual gags on our podcast.
Yeah, really.
Specifically on our YouTube episodes.
No, we'll make them work in the
audio stream.
Yeah. I think I paint a pretty good picture.
Yeah.
Not really.
Audience, let us know what you think about Gamer's depiction of the layout of this bunker and its tunnels in our comment section below where it's posted.
Whether bikinis and just straight into the intro. Don't even finish the episode.
Yeah. Alright, continue.
Yeah. So that was sort of...
It was a weird visual.
Superfluous,
Yeah, it was a bit annoying.
If it said something like, it exited out onto sea level or whatever, and then him just go, the compound must have been way above sea level.
Or must have been, like, on the hill down there, and, like, I'm down at the bottom of the hill, near this pond.
Or after biking away, I turn around and see really how high up that thing was.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, turns out I'm actually just in a gully in the middle, or a ravine in the middle of that woods, like in the back there, so...
Alright. Then I have one more thing.
Okay.
And this is about the library.
Yes.
The place had a wealth of books. Everything from War and Peace to Pet the Bunny. I googled Pet the Bunny.
Is it actually a thing?
It is a book, but the first thing that came up in a Google search was a guy named Pet the Bunny, because that's his nickname. So
His name's Patrick. The bunny.
Yeah.
The bunny, whatever.
So, when you read this again, it's like, War and Peace to Pet Bunny. Yo. You just stand there.
It's a cool in War and Peace.
He actually has a bunny, like, head in the head.
Oh, yeah, there you go, yeah.
I'm actually surprised that the story didn't go, like, the full 9 yards. It just had that everybody in this cult had an animal mask, or had, like, an animal head, like, not grafted, but, like, stitched to their face.
Could have.
Mm-hmm.
Just go the full, like, animal farm.
Mm-hmm.
They're all furries.
My God, from the 60s.
Not to kink shame.
Yeah, not to kink shame at all. They're all proto-furries.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah. And that's the end of my part 3.
Cool.
Cute. So for me, my first one is kind of essentially what you said earlier, cultist early on, is like, there's like paragraphs of him trying to figure these people out and snooping around. And he's like, I'm just going to like wait until Sunday's inevitable bloodletting. And my only answer is, well, that's what happens when you spend so much time learning about these people and not trying to create an escape plan.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird that they glossed over that. Like, because he said, like, I have an entire week to figure this out. I figured there'd be like a montage situation of him, like, finding things out and planning what to do. But he finds out one thing and that's it.
Also, yeah, in his I'm going to investigate, I find out more further. He finds the Book of Sekra.
That's it.
It's too hard to read because I have to decipher, like, English, my old language, but, like, it's a couple of a century old version of my language. Fuck that. Too long, did not read.
Like, pretty much, and then he gives up.
Yeah, exactly. And
like it set it up to do all this investigative stuff. It's like if we did some tabletop game, some investigative thing. It's like we found out one thing. It's like, I don't know.
Let's just wait till the ritual happens, and we'll just like roll to see if we survive the sacrifice.
Yeah,
yeah. Like,
oh wow, really?
Or see, it's like fuck planning. Let's just see if we can escape at the moment when we're about to be sacrificed.
Yes,
like we're
gonna wait until it happens.
All right,
roll a pencil in my boot. We're good to go.
All right, roll a sleight of hand. Oh, Lombard spotted you. He cuts you in the back of the head, and you're dead.
Cool. So I took the game.
Exactly, yeah. Everybody else roll sand. Oh, you guys all failed? All right. You guys go into a bloodlust and just go running into the woods where you're eventually caught and sacrificed.
Excellent.
Good game, guys.
Yeah. GG. Mm-hmm. Yes. So then my only other note, actually, is the ending. Where he gets back to his house, sits down, and there's a gargantuan man there. Also, side note, I wish they mentioned that there's a gargantuan man there with a fucked up face, green eyes, and missing an arm. Or a hand. Because I did not realize that he literally went stumped. It did say stump, you read it, but I glossed over it because it didn't, I don't know, it didn't paint a good enough picture for me there. But either way, he sits down, and then Robert Elm sat motionless as he looked at the thing. The thing spoke to him in a labored, devilish groan, "Good evening, friend." It was then that Robert pulled his handgun out from the cushion of the chair and put a bullet between those pale green eyes.
It was just like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, he had so much time to plan for when he would show up. Why not just murder him?
Especially given the fact that, like, we've already gotten the garbage that is part 3 of, like, him, like, being, like, an action hero now. Fucking just lean into either get rid of part 3's like action bits and have him just escape, and then have that ending. Because I actually have that in my final thoughts. Mm-hmm. Is that the ending? The last like 4 sections of 4 paragraphs of part 3 are all you need. Get rid of the rest of the part 3. And then like also add maybe something between part 2 and this part where like he escapes somehow or something like that. And even like that ending, like "Good evening, friends," like he caught him. Like that would be a good horror story. But if you're gonna do the action bullshit, lean into it, like surprise, kabam.
Yeah, exactly. And like, theoretically, maybe he tried a gun and it didn't work. Yeah. But also, he has been living away from him
since the
for
60s.
12 years, not eating human flesh. So at this point, you figure he would show up, he'd be like, Kamehameha!
Or fucking bullshit even further. He goes sits down in his favorite chair. The shadowy tall man shows up in the. It's like, "Hello, friend," and then he like goes up close to him, like go and kill him. Turns out that was actually a dummy sitting in the chair, and then behind is like, "Yes, hello, friend." Grab.
Yeah, grabs his neck and just collapses his neck in, so his head pops off.
That would be a perfect. Like that'd be a hilarious. Screw the horror aspect. That would be a hilarious like counter end to that.
I mean, there is still something horrifying about that to the point that this guy over this family has enough power that he can just touch their skin and their skin corrodes his hands.
It's bordering on the silly visceral horror, which is not really horror at this point. It's more just kind of like a fantastical duel or a fantastical thing more than like a scary thing. At this point, it's becoming more silly.
But yeah, at this point, because either way, at the end, it's explained pretty much everything in the story. So why not explain what happened to him?
Yeah,
like did he just is he actually just strong enough that he's like, oh hi, how's it going? You know what? Well, you've been chasing me for a long time. Good. It was a good fight. And then they shake hands, and he corrodes his other hand, and then punches him in his face, and his hand goes straight through his head.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. It's an epic fight. Like it's
not epic. You just own him.
Yeah.
The thing you have to realize, it's reading between the lines.
I hate doing that.
I know you do.
Is that the bartender was in on it.
So he's actually been giving him mixing blood in his Irish whiskey the whole time. So when he draws that epic fight, he's like, ha ha! Oh shit! It's like, you fool! I've actually been paying off that bartender for 12 years to give you blood in you dastardly fiend! And there's just a huge epic fight in the apartment. We're just gonna go fuck scary. Yeah. Let's just go full on bullshit anime brawl.
That's really what it is. Like all the times where it brings up the exposition, it feels like it's part of a cartoon or an anime where it's like, or an action movie.
Because everything else, part 1, part 2, were legitimately there's some weird juxtaposition between whimsical stuff and silly weird cultish activity and horror elements. But then it could have gone a serious horror way with him trying to escape the cult. When he realizes they're going to sacrifice him, but then we get this bullshit action shit that doesn't really feel right for the story. But if you lean into that and just say fuck horror, it does make it for an entertaining read. If we have haha, if you treat it more like a parody of or kind of thing like that. But I didn't want that at all. That's why I fucking hate part 3. Is that they basically jumped the shark and went epic for a story that shouldn't have been as epic as it became.
It is weird because each part feels like a different story because they're all written weird and that's not the correct word. They're all written differently. They have a different feel.
Yeah, part 1 could have ended with him basically getting blacking out and then waking up in the and it all being a dream, in the cornfield. That would have been a really interesting story. Part 1 had just basically him wake up after he gets knocked out, and it's actually just him waking up in the cornfield. I was that was a really fucking messed up dream. And then maybe have some illusion that there was a cloak. There was he thought he saw a cloaked figure or something as he was leaving the cornfield.
I'd say I would hate that.
I'm sure you would, but...
so just
sorry. I would hate it. That was the wrong phrasing.
Idiots like you would hate it, of course, but smart intellectual people like me.
I personally find that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But then we have part 2, which, It's like, oh, hello, friend, and let me just tell you about our secret cult that we have in the middle of the woods, and everything's going to be perfectly fine. We just need to recover and stuff like that. Don't worry, we're totally not going to kill you, but or induct you into our cult. Although we do have you're feeling a lot better, so we're just going to have a ceremony, and then he finds the ceremony, like goes to the rehearsal, like hides and sneaks it, like in a horror story, and discovers they are going to in fact kill me. Okay, I'm going to run and flee, and then either he escapes. And we now have somebody who's telling the story of Robert Elm. Or he doesn't escape, and he's a fucking ghost that's been living in that bar for 12 years. And now that he's told his story, he can pass on. And it was like... As for the answer,
for those at home,
I slapped my hands against my face and did the...
Macaulay Culkin.
The Macaulay Culkin, yeah, exactly. Yes. Or the scream from
the
that
Home
painting.
Alone.
From that painting.
You're going with something way more highbrow.
Of course.
I went with Home Alone.
I would expect
which is a reference of that.
Yes. But anyway, yeah, it's just like each story, I do agree, like each story could have ended after their part if you just added like an extra paragraph or something or whatever happened. But because they do kind of feel like different stories.
Like you said, I would be pissed if it ended on the first one. There's nothing that was said. There wasn't enough substance there. At that point, if it did end like that, I would be like, why did I bother?
And to be fair, if we had ended, if that had been our story that we reviewed this week, it would have been our complaint would have been it should have been longer. And then we got part two, which did give us enough content to like kind of like be sad. I don't personally, I was satisfied by the end of it, and I could have just watched him either escape and then become a ghost
or die and become a ghost. Yes,
yeah. But then we got part 3 that completely goes the action route, and I was like, no.
But here's the thing, though, like. For example, I keep referencing this fucking creepypasta. Dare My Best Friend Ruin My Life.
I know.
Is a action pasta, but you loved it.
Well, yes, because there was no bait and switch between that.
It was never like, ooh, it might be really. There's cultists. Like, ooh, it might be supernaturally.
Like you said, this story was written differently, like in each part. The first two are closer together. This one feels like it was written by somebody completely different, like with a completely
there's a 10-year gap.
Yeah, like there was a completely different mindset behind the first two parts and what was going to happen. Like he's like, or like the author panicked as what he was going to do for part 3, and so he just decided to make it action horror, which isn't like as satisfying as if it was, especially based off the first two parts. So, yeah,
I suppose.
And is that your?
I thought it was yours.
Sorry, I apologize.
Did you finish your part 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
I only have the 2 things to talk about.
All right. So, final thoughts then? All right. Well, we just went into why I hate part 3.
Again. For the third time, for the last time.
Wait. As it is, I almost don't want to recommend the story. And I was going to up until part 3. The story has a nice blend of horror scenes and whimsical curiosity and a dark revelation that, while you can see coming, is still enjoyable. Though, even if in parts 1 and part 2, there is a bit of skimming and summarizing of events that I feel could have been fleshed out proper. Part 3 is where the story takes a nosedive, and with speeding past events and time, and all of the other issues I've mentioned regarding part 3. I quickly fell in love with the story initially. I genuinely was curious with what was going to happen until part 3. It was like watching a car you're rooting for in a race crash right before the finish line. Like, that's how I felt when I was reading the story. When I was reading part 3, I was like, oh no! Like,
but the crash was so spectacular.
It is only after we start talking about it after the fact. But like when I was reading it, I was literally like my heart was wrenching because I loved the story up until this part, and it's like. So I'm sorry, but I can only at best half recommend this story. If you just stop at the end of part 2. Jump straight to the last 4 paragraphs of part 3, where he's trudging through the woods and escaping, and and then finishing off his story with the bartender, and then that stuff. Otherwise, I cannot recommend the story. because it broke my heart.
Aww.
So that is my
The story was
thoughts on the story.
The story was your Elizabeth.
Yes, it was indeed.
I see.
Nice.
You're getting to know it and living together as a pair.
Yeah.
And
Getting angry with it, getting thrown out onto the road and told to walk down the trail and go sleep in a cornfield and find out.
You don't need to go over the entire story again. Jesus Christ. That's why I stopped you.
Yes. All right, so Mikey, your final thoughts?
Alright, so it's a partial recommendation because I still have an issue with the concrete shack that has a tunnel.
Even with the two ways
With the two ways, because it doesn't explain that he goes down into a door.
But even if he doesn't, even if he doesn't go down into a tunnel, if it is a straight tunnel, which is the way that I envisioned it, to be honest.
Yes.
There should be a hill, but they don't explain
don't say
the hill.
there's a hill.
They just say there's a concrete structure. And you have to assume, and we all know what assuming is. It makes an ass of you and me and Mikey. The E stands for evil.
Anyway. You really like saying his name, don't you?
Yes.
Fair. Anytime E is mentioned, you just have to mention it.
Yeah, so...
Also because it rhymed. The ass of you and me and Mikey.
And then I liked some parts of it, but there was still a lot of gore mixed in.
No, there wasn't.
I think
there was one section of gore.
I think the thing is, Mikey doesn't care too much for gore.
2 sections of gore.
The thing is, Mikey, I've noticed this. I don't think you like visceral horror, like gory horror.
Well, I understand because he can't fully grasp it because he has no blood and meat in himself. So he's like, I can't. I can't even.
Yeah, I personally think that like you can do gore well, but you can also do it very gratuitously and like don't need to have a whole lot of it. But I do understand why people do it because it's shocking. It's gratuitous, like it's gratuitous and visceral, like because it's icky, it's wet, it's disgusting, and that's part of why people will read horror is to be disgusted, to be uneasy. But I do also understand like why you wouldn't like it if that is indeed why you don't care for it.
Yeah. They're also put there to show how quickly the ante was amped up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, everything's fine. Oh, they're going to sacrifice me and eat my liver. Yeah. Great, I'm going to have to hide. Where can I hide? There's the one place they won't look, in a barrel of bleh.
Alright, that whole sacrifice thing wasn't too bad, because it's just pulling out a liver from a distance. So you don't actually see that much.
So is it the barrel of bleh?
Yeah,
what I'm hearing,
barrel of blah.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing right now is I should invite Mikey to my Splatterhouse movie watching nights, where I watch like grindhouse horror films that are just like basically like butchers killing people.
Sounds like it, yes.
Okay, cool.
I'm sure he would enjoy that.
So you're off the hook from going to Shockstock anytime soon.
Yeah, and the whole goat mask thing, so highly unsanitary and just
would have been better if he was just a goat man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that reveal would have been amazing. Like if you like, it's like, oh, it's just a mask, friend. It's like it's totally not a mask.
I wear no mask.
Carcosa. Yeah.
Alright, so.
Oh, on to me.
Yeah.
I did not get nearly as pissed off as both you guys did.
To be fair, I quickly my emotions were high at the beginning in a positive way, and then it was because I was betrayed, or I felt betrayed by the third act of the story. So
honestly, for me, it kind of just it felt like the entire thing was a. Yes, it got into an action movie kind of deal, but the whole thing is described relatively well, Shaq notwithstanding. To the point, like, at the end, it felt like a climax of a movie, where, you find out what's going on, you confront the villain, I need to know answers, you want your answers, here you go, and then I'll put you in an easily escapable death trap, and, it's that kind of,
I know, but that's
of ridiculousness, but I enjoyed it, and it didn't piss me off at all.
Wow.
Like, and yes, the potential Mikey change to the ending where, like,
he didn't survive.
Maybe they say all this shit, but he tries to get away, and they get him. Like, they find him in the barrel or whatever, and he's caught and murdered, and that's like, what? But you're right
and
here.
And then he just fades, or like the bartender like hears like the door, like a doorbell, like of this bar, and he's like. Goes to look, and then he goes to turn around, and there's nobody at the bar at the table with him.
Okay,
next to that.
Here's the thing, though. Even if you do that, he could just be really good at Batmaning. I would love for him to actually disappear in front of his eyes, so there is no way you can say that he is not a ghost.
And that's the difference between you and me. That is your love for the part for right to the end. And my distaste for the part 3, you're wanting to like you'd rather have him like disappear in front of him, whereas I'd like this more subtlety. I prefer subtlety over.
But the reason that you like this ending is because it's telling you that he's a ghost. So why not just go? Yes, he's a ghost. Confirmed.
Because you can be subtle about it. You can have
this entire thing has not been subtle.
Actually, it's kind of been, except for part 3, which was just straight up. Like some kid writing up his power fantasy fanfic of like,
there is a subtle way to do it. So it's explained that he only goes to the bar at night and he leaves by morning. So basically, he's been talking all night and then have the sun come in and then he's gone.
Okay, I still would prefer like him to like be distracted and then look back and he's gone. Like, that, to me, that would be better for me. Yeah. But that's an opinion.
You're more than welcome to be wrong. But
so are you.
Indeed.
So are you, friend.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Anyways, again, that would be a better way to end it. It did not end great, because even the way it is, I want to know what actually happened, because he could have very easily killed him, unless there's the 15th twist situation where the bartender's in on it,
and he's been like dousing his whiskey with blood to like weaken his aura.
And because there's so little in there, it takes 12 years to actually lower his power level enough. Bullshit like that. But again, I would rather have bullshit than leave it open where it's like, "Hi, you're here. Cool. Am I dead now?"
And see again, yeah, all right.
Because they've already went. Okay, here's the thing: he's already murdered. So there's nothing to say he can't attempt to murder again.
Yes.
And they have already shown a sacrifice in here, so there's nothing to say that they can't show that he's been sacrificed.
I hear you. I just don't agree.
And it's already long enough that there's no harm in adding more.
I don't agree, but okay.
That's fair. Yeah. Either way, all in all, I didn't get pissed off in it. It's not perfect, but none of them are perfect. There are things that should be explained more, but I enjoyed my way through, so I'm just going to recommend it.
Okay.
I didn't really have a problem with it.
All right. Well, I'm happy for you.
You should be.
That sounds like a threat.
Yeah.
Friend. You're going to start doing that now. It's like, hello, friend. Well, that was this week's episode. If you like what you heard, if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can check out our... you can leave us a review on iTunes or on any other streaming site where this gets posted, and leave us a rating and review. Let us know how we're doing. You can talk to us on Twitter. Mikey is at the E Stands for Evil. I'm at Review Cultist. And the Gamer Nail is at the Gamer Nail without the W because Twitter hates him.
Mm-hmm.
You can also check out, or you can also leave us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS @gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas you'd like us to discuss on the show. If you'd like to check out the title cards for each episode, you can go to crazonstudios.tumblr.com, crazon.deviantart.com, or on our YouTube channel, Aldente Rigamortis, where you can check out the videos of each episode. Actually, I believe this one was actually suggested to us by somebody on the DeviantArt account.
Oh, okay.
So, thank you.
You know who you are.
Yeah, you know who you are. And if you'd like to help support the show, you can go to Patreon. Look up Aldente Rigamortis at Patreon and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at, though any little donation counts. With the backer tiers, you get... we have special episodes such as Aldente Real Talk, where we talk about films and movies that have creepypasta leanings or like similar kind of genre of horror. There is Actual Play Rigamortis, where we run tabletop games set in horror scenarios that have creepypasta leanings. And we also have for my two co-hosts, they have their own show on Patreon, which is
Al Dente Reloaded at the $5 tier, where Mikey and I go back to the good, the bad, and the ugly pastas that the cultists and the Doctor have done in the past, read them and see what our thoughts are on them. And Al Dente Revelations at the $2 tier, where Mikey and I continue those thoughts from the previous episode after listening to the episodes that the cultists and the Doctor did, and see how their thoughts influence ours, and possibly have a mind-breaking revelation while doing so.
Also, rip apart the art.
Yes. Because he will never learn unless we do.
Sure.
That's the only way to get better. It's criticism.
No, you're right.
Constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yes, indeed.
And also, we have early access episodes, so you can offer the $5 tier. So if you'd like to get the episodes on Tuesday rather than Thursdays, there you go. And to our patrons that are already helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. And for our listeners and the authors of each story, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, we really wouldn't have a show. And without your stories, we really wouldn't have a show. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, my cultist heart. It's been ripped out by this story.
It's fine. It became a ghost and went back in.
Yes. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
This has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well.